This thing on? Oh, yeah, I think so. Hey, another week of fantasy football, folks. We don't have a lot left, so you better enjoy this beautiful, beautiful stash because next week I think is our last week with him. I know it's been fun. I feel like we should play like some kind of like sad song, kind of like the PETA commercials, you know? Be like sad dogs. It's like my sad mustache. He's gonna be gone, so love him while he's here. Anyway, fantasy football. We had a kind of weird and shitty week, to be honest. We had a lot of drama go down, but we won't talk about that because it's all under the bridge, as Barron once said. So kind of was looking forward to some really good matchups, but we got some pretty shitty ones. So let's just start off with what was the best matchup of the week, which was Justin Ball over Thomas Gregg in a 1 point matchup, 118 to 117. By far the closest and most exciting of all the matchups. Tom kind of got some bad luck on this one. Jamal Charles had his first ever single point game of the season with 9 points. He was averaging something like a fuck ton before that. So, I mean, if Jamal Charles scores 10 points, it's a tie game. 11 and Tom wins. So 9 points from Jamal Charles. I think that was really kind of the straw that broke the camel's back on that one. You do have to wonder, though, Tom, is this Trent Richardson experiment working out for you? You've stuck with it for a while. He's averaging something like 7.8 points per game, I think is what I wrote down here. And he's only had 2 touchdowns all season. So, I don't know. He seems to be kind of shitty. Maybe the Browns were right. I would have never guessed it, but he isn't really doing much. And I don't know. So, I mean, just throwing it out there, maybe it's not worth keeping the fucker on the bench. J-Ball, though, buddy, you only had 4 guys in double digits. So this was a really top-heavy week for you because you won this matchup with only 4 dudes in double digits. I think that means you had 6 in single digits. And just to put that into perspective, 3 out of the 4 guys in double digits went insane, all right? Calvin Johnson, Chris Johnson, and Charles Clay all totaled to 77 points. It's 65% of your point output came out of those 3 players. So really had a really top-heavy performance, but it was enough to get you the win. You're still technically alive. You just got to keep winning, hope some other people lose, and you might squeak in there, especially with the adjustments. So keep on winning. You never know what's going to happen. It's a tough path, though, buddy. I'm not rooting against you. I'm not rooting for you because I'm rooting for myself. But I'm just telling you, it's gonna be tough. Sharp beats Sheckton 126 to 72. This was by far our worst game of the week. Awful, awful game. It wasn't even competitive. This was one of the ones where the Sheckskins really kind of fucked it. Sheck, you only had 3 players out of your whole lineup in double digits, and only 2 of those players scored over 15 points. And you also had 6 players that scored less than 20. That means, like, if you added them together, they scored less than 20. Okay? You took 6 of your players, you add them together, and they scored 19 points. That's not going to cut it. So the Sheck Redskin experience did not happen. I don't want to rub it in too much. I know you Philly fuckers, spelled with PH, are really jazzed up about beating on the Skins, but I don't want to rub the dirt in because that stings. We all know that. So, Sheckton, I'm sorry for your double losses. I'm sorry that they both kind of came at a pretty sore spot. All right. Sharp had all but 2 players in double digits, but not a single player scored over 20 points. This was like the definition of mediocrity out of Sharp. Like, nobody was very good and nobody was bad. Think about that. 8 out of 10 players were in double digits, and not a single player scored over 20 points. Sharp, I think, is still searching for that quarterback. Andy Dalton hasn't really helped you out too much. He's not going to hurt you either. He's just kind of blah. You got some major running back issues. You have Giovanni Bernard, who's kind of hot and cold. You have Andre Brown, who's pretty much just cold. Like, for instance, this week, you started Andre Brown and Giovanni Bernard. You add those 2 scores together, that's 23 points. On your bench, you had Ray Rice, who scored 23 points by himself. Now, that's the old Ray Rice. Who knows if he's going to keep doing that. This season, he's pretty much sucked. So, Major problems with running back. I have some concerns as to whether Sharp's going to make the playoffs here. It's going to be pretty touch and go. Next matchup, Bird over Anthony, 135 to 112. Anthony, you have now lost 2 out of the last 3 games. What was once the super team to beat now seems to be kind of, maybe they're falling. Who knows? I know you had some bye week trouble, so let's not count it out yet. But, man, losing to Bird. Bird, you're also like the luckiest fantasy player ever. I mean, let's break this matchup down. Anthony had Adrian Peterson and Fred Jackson. When you combined their scores together this week, it was 11 points. 11 points. Before this game, Adrian Peterson alone was averaging 18.7 points a game. Fred Jackson, 13.9. So when you add them together and you only get 11, you know Ant's going to have a bad day. And Bird just keeps having good days. So, I mean, good for him, but it's blowing my mind. And just to even compound that, Bird, you had Antonio Brown, who kicked some ass. He scored 33 points for you. 33. He was averaging 18, which he's one of the better fantasy receivers this year, but still 33 is monstrous. And Chase only had 2 players in single digits. So Chase had a really good week. Ant had a pretty poor week. And the train march is on. I mean, look at this. Bird is right up there. He's the number 2 team right now. And he's the second least scoring team. Like, he doesn't score any points, but he wins the fuck ton out of games. So, keep it up, I guess. Jordan beat Brad 137 to 96. This was another pretty piss poor game, gentlemen. Brad, you had AJ Green, who's been averaging 19.9 points. He scored 2. That was his first single-digit game of the season. Noshan Moreno got you 7. He's been averaging something like 17, I think. And you had 3 players that scored 3 points or less. Just your team just bad. It was not good. Porge, you only had 1 player in single digits, which was Reggie Bush, because you couldn't handle that mighty Steelers defense. And the rest of the team was really good. You had 28 points from the Bengals defense, which was fucking brilliant. And it was just a good all-around show. You can't really complain about what Jordan did, but Brad, I don't know, buddy. And finally, me over Zachary Zabella, 142 to 113. This is my 3rd weekly beer of the season, which is not the leader for the season, but is only important because if you added all of my weekly beers from the last 2 seasons together, you get exactly 3. So I have now equaled my career total in 1 season. So fuck y'all. Zach, you had 7 players with 15 points or less. LaShawn McCoy was the only one to score over 17 points. He scored 30, which was pretty incredible because I thought the guy had blown up his hamstring partway through the game. So all in all, your team you didn't have a stud game. You had a very dud game. It was very bad. I mean, no player scored more than 17 points. Only 1. Me, I only had 3 in single digits, 2 of which scored less than 5. So I'm kind of lucky here because it could have been a disaster. The real kind of backbone of my win came off Marshawn Lynch, Matt Forte, and Vincent Jackson. Lynch scored 25 points, Forte scored 23, and VJ scored 32. That was it. That holy trifecta really got that one for me. Otherwise, I was probably pretty fucked. So thank you, running backs. Much appreciated. Thank you, Zach's team, for sucking. And so I win, bitches. And we're all pretty tight in the playoff hunt. This is the last week of buys. You don't have to worry about buys anymore after week 12. Freedom across the entire lineup. So that's sweet. It'll help a lot of people out. Also, no more trades. The trade deadline has passed. So don't be trying to snipe Sharp's players or anything like that. And should also cut down on collusion, I think, right? 2 weeks left of the whole season. There's only 1 team that's mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. That team is also mathematically locked to get the Stephon Lawrence Medal of Shame. We don't need to remind anybody who it is. But 1 team out of the playoffs. That means the other 9 teams are still technically alive in some way, shape, or form. So that leads us into some crazy final 2 weeks. There's some pretty matchups and some pretty good-looking matchups for this upcoming week. Me versus Bird is going to be big. We're both right in there. I think Bird is, has 7 wins. I think I have 6. Winner's in trouble, or winner's in a good shape. Loser's in trouble, especially without our division getting any of the tiebreakers. So that's a big matchup, but I think the biggest one of the week is Brad versus Tom. They are both sitting at 6-5, both flirting with the playoff boundary. Both need a win, both can't afford to lose. So I'm really thinking that's going to be the one, all right? Keep your eyes on this space. The power rankings are up. The salute is up. New poll this week, so check everything out. And fuck you!